again for joining us this month of June, where we are talking about men's health. As you already know, this organization, the Women Breathe Again Holistic Center, we empower women to rise above trauma through holistic practices. However, whenever the woman is well, the whole family is well. So this month, we are talking to men, professional men from all sector, where they will share with you what this organization is all about and what we're going to talk about tonight. So we welcome you. Have a seat. Get yourself ready because we have information for you. We have resources for you so you know what to do and when. So thank you again for joining us. And tonight, let me introduce to you our chairwoman, Dr. Piper.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's an evening of 1 hour, probably 1 hour and a half of a lot of information that we need to share with you. So we have invited a panel of professional guests that will blow your mind, ease your conscience, and share some secrets of the mental instability and stability that men go through. So tonight we have um, Mr. We have the pastor's corner. And so with the pastors, guys, turn on your camera so that we can introduce you. We have Dr. Patrick Jules and we have Dr. Desmontini. And what they're actually going to share with you is what they discuss in men's groups at their churches. So let's speak with them.
Okay, pastors, introduce yourself.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to be part of such a selected group. And I think that's a very important issue, specifically when we talk about men health. Is if they put together this a month for men, we need to focus on that because usually we feel strong, we feel powerful, we don't take care of our own health. And I'm very fortunate and honored to be part of this. And I think, I will share what I think on that topic that's so dear, so important to our community.
Thank you so much. Pastor Jew?
Health and discussing about the stability and instability and some tips that I can offer to you that I think will be quite helpful and see the perspective from a male. Uh, Mental health is a serious issue, and I'm really excited to talk about this. And also, this month is PTSD month and gun violence, so we'll bring that into play too, and we'll be welcoming everyone to chime in and ask questions. We're here to help you, and I look forward to this podcast tonight with the colleagues and you guys.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thompson. And then final group of guests, we have Mr. Scott Johnson. And Mr. Johnson is going to come on and tell us how to prepare for the end of life. How do we address changes that affect men, senior men, because he represents the advocacy for men. Mr.
Hi, good
Johnson?
evening, everybody. Yeah, hi. Thank you, Dr. Piper. Such a pleasure to be here and share a little bit about myself and to the group. My company is Nucleus Design Group. I'm an architect in Pompano Beach, Florida. I'm actually in Nassau, Bahamas now. I do a lot of work throughout the Caribbean. And so I'm grandfather, a husband, four children, and an elder in my church in Nassau. So I'm very involved in a lot of different things. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So as we kick off our men's health group, some of the questions that our audience has sent forward would be um, would be who are the men in the family that influence the family's dynamic? Who are the men in the family? Then we have what are some triggers that influence decision making? Can a man be submissive or do they need to be controlling? And then when a man says, I am okay, is he really okay? And so our panelists will discuss different areas of the real man, the man who sits at our table, the man who shares with us his perspective, the man when he comes to the end of life or the end, which is the final stages. And it doesn't have to mean they're dying, it means that they have done everything in life. What are some things that they're saying about the lives that they've led? So we have one more. We have Mr. Andrew, and Andrew is one of our members. So Andrew, please introduce yourself.
My name is Andrew Gold. Born and raised here in South Florida. I run a textile decorating business. I've been part of Maggie's organizations probably for 15 years. Tried to understand, what she brings forth to the to the women and the men that support her, and make a better understanding of solving some problems that face all individuals at this point. So I was asked to join this group tonight to give a male perspective on, given the backdrop, especially recently, of the terrible interactions between men and women, and the lack of understanding of how so much of this domestic violence, happens. Not trying to place blame, but trying to find some ways to prevent it, making a difference for people out there that maybe could understand what their partner or significant other is going through, that may affect their lives and their lives together.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew Gold. So as we kick off our meetings or discussions, please sit back, relax, learn some things from us, and please feel free to ask questions. We will be doing Q&As at the end of our podcast. So the first up, we're gonna have the pastors discussing, and they're gonna be the ones that will tell us what are they seeing in churches, how does religion play a part in the lives of men as the man in the house. How do we mentor young men? Okay, so the pastors.
I guess I'll go first. So in my church dynamics, I'm pastor of an American Haitian and Haitian American congregation, where majority of the men are between the ages of 5 years old, all the way to 80. But what makes the men group in our churches averages around 50 and up. And the younger men, which were born and raised in America, most of them also are part of the ministry, but there's a big difference between the two. But the older men, they come from this background of being tough, being hardworking, being providers for their families, being the one who keep the family together, while at the same time, some have neglected their well-being. And some of them have worked so hard to bring their family into the country. In my context, that they have forgotten to take care of themselves. So one of the questions is, are they okay? And the majority of the time, no, that opens up a whole can of worms, and now you have to express yourself. So a lot of men have not learned how to express themselves because of the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of being misunderstood. So they would rather keep it in and hide it and not say no. By language that varies by even demographics between, let's say, upper United States versus lower United States, South Florida, North Florida. So it makes a big difference. So with that being said, there needs to be more education, even in the church setting. Pastors have been trying to develop. Now we have men's group. I was able to start a men's prayer group, trying to start a men's, prayer breakfast. These are things that still are being taught because our culture is not used to it. Well, when you look at the Anglo population, they probably have been open to this because they've been exposed. I think the main thing is exposure. Exposure our men to different things. Now, our men's, since we're talking about Men's Month, even men's health is a topic that many have not talked about. You take cancer, you take screening, you take all these different things that men should be aware of. Like, for example, I know a lot of men are afraid to do prostate cancer screening because of what they've been told. So these things, I'm finding that I'm having to address them more and let men know how to live a prosperous life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Jules. We have another pastor on, and we want to hear his perspective of what he's seeing in churches and in his congregation. Mm,
Thank
particularly,
you.
go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Reed and Dr. Piper, for inviting me to be part of such a, I think that's very interesting, and we need that, and specifically in the minority communities. Usually, church, our sermon, we preach, people like men in control. We don't know, it's like a relationship between men and women. We have to come together to help our family grow and better. Usually, men wait too long to get help.
Mm,
Many men skip annual checkups. They ignore symptoms. They push aside stress, sadness, fatigue, pain, and they think, if they do, they're weak.
mm,
Church should be more involved in that. As a president of Home Salvation Pastor Association, I deal with different churches, and I can see that we have a tendency to being strong, specifically we from the Caribbean.
mm,
I grew up my tender years in Haiti and coming here in US and different culture, but at the same time, we can see a lot of similarity because we bought what we got home here. And I
yes.
think, church need to be more responsible. As a matter of fact, we carry on, the spirit of poverty and not being together or do stuff together. You can see that that's caused a lot of problems, and men refuse to admit they need women to be around them to progress or to make to build milestones, if you allow me
Mm,
to say that. Because in general, men month exists, I think, to push back on that silence. The church need to be mindful of that and just don't preach the people. We're going to heaven, blah, blah, blah. Is that we forget we in our body. We're
right.
still flesh and blood. We need to eat well. We need to have a good relationship because God created us to live in association. We
Mm-hmm.
tend to forget this, and you can see even our pastors. They're too big, they're too strong, they're at the top. They don't even have time to come down. Sometimes I laugh at this. I can see this, and we feel too important to even go to a doctor. Or people cannot speak to us, probably tell us, be submissive in this sense. I think you mentioned that is not to let you be controlled by anybody. Is to find a way to come up with better solution in terms of your own health, the health of the church also. We have a lot of taboos among us. I think that need to be addressed. And we need to start with the pastors because I know, believe me, as a
Yeah.
pastor's leader, I can see that it's terrible sometimes to even deal with our own brothers and sisters. We think we know too much. Not true. And most of the time, specifically in many of our communities, we think women don't play that game. Women cannot do this. Women cannot do that. Women had to be on the man. They cannot act. A lot of religious thinking that's created a lot of problems in society. And if the church, if families work go fine, I think the church, the society will be much better. Today we can see we face crisis. Our young men and our young women, many of them are doing very well, much better than young men. That's a huge problem because the father is a figure that could be an example to a lot of people, and most of us are victims of that. I think that's a good thing we're doing, especially during the month, to get people to be aware of where we are and how we can solve the problem or what we need to do to move forward. And to do that, believe me, we cannot do it without the women.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically in terms of most women choose the profession of physicians or mental health, blah blah blah. You know, they can help our men to have their checkup because we don't do that. So you see that we don't even know how to handle the family. Sometimes because we're too Christians, we don't know our women need love. If you're married, you need to be able physically to satisfy in many ways your wife to be able to provide your family. If you're sick, how are you gonna do that? That's create problem, divorce, and a lot of stuff. And we can go on that issue. And I think what we're doing today is excellent to help, probably control that because usually we forget, to include our blood pressure. We need to see that diabetes and prostate. That's a huge problem. Sometimes even pastors, they're depressed. They don't want people to know that.
Right.
They have anxiety. You know, people think they're God or they're above, and we need to concentrate on this and to advise each other, to make things better among us. And I think that's my point of view on that. And thank you for bringing that issue on.
Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you so very much. You guys, you're bringing to light what we as women or we as the community don't really factor and think about those things. We see men in our churches, but we don't know who they are. They're hidden figures in our congregation. And so, when you go to a church and you see young men, it's like, wow, we do have something coming up. And, the pastors, they will be the ones that reach out to the young men and have these young men in the youth groups and stuff like that. So thank you so very much. And then next we'll have the psychology corner where we have Dr. Thompson. And Dr. Thompson, we have some questions for you that um, our group put forward. Who can be victims? How do we spot or become aware of their signs? And discussing the triggers that affect men.
Well, first I want to say, pastors, that was great information for men, and I just want to take the perspective from the mental health issues. Everyone is affected by mental health, right? So when you talk about men, we're focusing on men's mental health issues. Um, they're vulnerable just as much as women, but like as the pastor said earlier, a lot of men don't want to show that vulnerability. They kind of hide what's going on with them. And as far as like signs and symptoms or triggers, some of the things that we talk about is behavioral changes in individuals, emotional mumbling, physical symptoms, and functional uh, decline, and obviously substance use. But in my experience, working in mental health, my background is working with individuals with severely mentally ill, schizophrenics, personality disorders, and I've witnessed suicide with some of my patients, and it's not an easy thing. And you ask yourself why, what could have been done better to save this individual. And it starts in the community, it starts with the churches, it starts with the leaders that we have to work with one another. I heard a lot of things earlier about screenings and the importance of it. It's extremely important. In our community healthcare centers, a lot of times the first people they see are their primary care physicians, but no one talks to them about mental health, or there's no integration. So it's extremely important to integrate these things at the first initial visit. So for individuals, that are triggered, triggers can be just about anything. Every individual is different. It's case by case. I would say that it's important for a man, right, or their family members to kind of understand what the things that may trigger them and be supportive of them. One of the things that we use in mental health is called a safety plan. And I mentioned this earlier before in a previous conversation. It's by Stanley Brown. And this safety plan is extremely important. You can use this plan to kind of understand what are your triggers and what are the things that can help you cope with what's going on with your life. And a lot of times, a lot of things we talk about are financial pressure, relationship conflict, fatherhood stress, workplace demands, uh, and past trauma. Trauma is extremely neglected in mental health. A lot of
Wow.
times we talk about what's exactly going on with the individual. They have a diagnosis, a certain mental health diagnosis, but no one talks about how it all started. Possibly, a lot of things are related to trauma early on. So addressing those issues are important, and having open dialogue. Like men, you know, find it difficult probably to open up, myself included. It's not easy always to open up because we're seen as these strong figureheads that, as a father too, you're able to, take on everything that's thrown at us, but it's not like that. So, having a forum to open up and talk, and also, having someone to lean on, you know, mental health is an issue that is is being seen but not seen. We talk about like gun violence. Why does it happen? Or we talk about PTSD. All these things are people are dealing with, but what are we doing to help these individuals? You know, a lot of times people are just left to the side and said, it's nothing, it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. So they need to be heard. So men that are feeling not heard, they have to be able to channel themselves maybe into the churches, into the community centers, different organizations, and sit down and have that conversation that maybe might not be comfortable, but in the end, it may save someone's life. And that's the biggest difference. That's why we're here today, to try to have an understanding of what's going on before one has a mental breakdown and maybe takes their life or another one's life because they feel like there's no hope. Well, tonight, what we're trying to do establish is to give everyone hope, for everyone to understand that we're here as professionals to give advice, have answer any questions, and direct individuals, men, onto the right path. So I hope that is some good information for you guys, and I welcome more of a dialogue and questions to talk about men's mental health.
Right. Thank you so much.
Knowing that a man, knowing that he's not alone, he has a family, he has a connection, he has a network that usually can allow him. We're hoping that by having these podcasts, that they're able to see that there is hope before before the end, before something happens, before you lose control. You know, um, I want to applaud all of you because you are a man. You have lived through these situations. You have walked in their shoes, and for you to open up and share with us, it's really a wonderful experience. And I know that the ones who are looking and listening, they are the ones that will benefit richly from discussions. So, Dr. Reed.
Yes, this is very important. We have spoken before about Dr. We've been spoken before about men and their issue with sharing what they are going through. And I want to understand from the psychologist, I want to understand, is there anything behind that? Could it be an issue from childhood trauma that's causing them to not be able to share and express themselves properly, and that can cause a lot of difficulties in the relationship or any other relationship that just don't share? Can you clarify on that, please?
Yeah, definitely. I would say a lot of things stem definitely from childhood. The way you grew up. Emotional numbing. Men often disconnect from their emotions because they're never taught emotional language. Uh, Growing up, you know, and we talk about cultures. Every culture is different, so not every culture
Yes.
is the same. So it's a whole different dynamic. So for individuals, it's not maybe common for the male figure to to be open about their feelings. Most cultures see the man as a strong figurehead, as an individual that can take the blows. That can continue moving on over through adversity, which is fine. At the same time, we have to take consideration too that they're human beings, that they're not these superheroes, that they have weaknesses, and that they need to be heard. But the problem is that no one's listening because they're not speaking, because they're afraid to speak. Now every individual is different. you know Some are may be comfortable talking, but from what I've seen, is most men keep things to themselves and have this macho, this masculinity where they don't feel comfortable talking about these issues or concerns, and that's what happens. And what happens is it grows, it
Right.
manifests,
Right.
and it continues through the years, and it becomes worse. And now we're in a society, where things are changing. You have social media and all these things that you see in front of you that to compare to, which doesn't make the situation easier for individuals, especially fathers. Individuals trying to keep a household together and are struggling to make ends meet. So a lot of them are comparing themselves to maybe others, so it becomes difficult. So again, if we can instill like more emotional regulation, early on uh, with during adolescence age, as you're growing up, and fester that throughout their lives, it will help them be more open. But unfortunately, we don't have that. But I will recommend one thing. Now today they have what we call peer support individuals that actually help. All men, women that can be very supportive when things are not going so well. Someone to talk to, someone to relate to is extremely important. A lot of people can't afford to see a psychologist or have the insurance to pay for it. So peer support is another way to people have walked experience that have dealt with their own trauma or had suicide. Or I've known an individual who's attempted suicide about 50 times, alive today, but he's now like inspiration to others.
Hmm.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, yeah, that clarifies it because we want to understand men, and who best able tell us that is the men. The professionals, men from different background, different profession, that can help us understand men and how we can we can put it together and make it make sense for us, for our relationships to work. So Andrew Gold wanted to say something, so let's see what's happening. Okay, so therefore, Dr. Piper, you have the mic. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Thompson. Go ahead, Dr. Thompson.
continue on a little bit. Um, you know, mental health is just a small landscape of the bigger picture, because the bigger picture looks at when mental health is untreated, undiagnosed, or not seen, it escalates to a point where it not only affects the individual but those around that individual. And I've seen it firsthand. People that keep things inside and let it fester and end up committing suicide. And you wouldn't know, what was going on. The question earlier was, what are the triggers? I mean, obviously behavioral change. You see things, like that. Mood changes.
Right.
It's not something like we easily see, but the most subtle things, the things that you may not see, the small details are sometimes the things that people don't catch that make the biggest difference in the world. I can give you an example. I had a patient that was quite, fine, and on their meds, doing quite well,
Hmm.
and I noticed something that day that was a little bit off. But I was dealing with other patients. I said, I'll talk to him another day. And you know what? There wasn't another day to talk to that individual. He ended his life a few days later. And I always think about that, and I think like, what could I have done better? I don't blame myself at all. I mean, but I also understand that when you're working with mental health, it's the small details that you may not even think that is important. So like what I mentioned earlier about a safety plan, that is extremely important for an individual to have a safety plan, to understand, what triggers them, what helps them relax, and then
Okay.
sharing that with people around them. Who can they um, depend upon? Is it mom, dad, cousin, uncle, whoever it is, should have that support network. It's extremely
Right.
important. What I've learned over the years is not the individual that makes a difference, the support network, right? Whether that family member is blood or not, is extremely important. And leaning on individuals like the pastors, the community leaders, professionals such as us, to get the advice and lead them in the right direction, so they don't think that there's no hope, because there is hope, and these conversations, these podcasts that are going on today is the hope that we're trying to provide to the community, that let you know that we're here to answer questions, that you're not alone, that it's okay to have mental instability, right? But there's pathways to get better. And for men, in general, since we're talking about men, uh, they're no different, than women. It's the only
Right.
difference that we said earlier is that yes, a lot of men keep things inside. They're
Right.
they're a strong figureheads that feel that I'm very masculine. I can't let things. I can't open up. I got to keep to myself. I'll stay stronger, and that's not really the way to go. So
Right.
I encourage every male. I encourage every female to hear what we're talking about today and acknowledge that the small little details in an individual, small changes, pay attention to them, because they make the biggest difference in the world, and discuss those things.
Right. Thank you so much. We appreciate that, guys. It's about time for us to take a little break. We coming right back in the next 3 minutes. We'll be right back with more information from Dr. Johnson and also from Andrew Gold. We're gonna share some resources that we have in the community for you. Thank you so much. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the second half um, of this podcast. Allow me to introduce back Dr. Piper, our chairwoman, the Woman Breathe Again Holistic Center.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. And if you missed the first part of a broadcast, you can go back and catch it on our Facebook page. But for the next half hour, we will have a lot of insights, and this is more the real men talk real facts. So we have Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson has been an advocate for senior citizens for as long as I know him. He has done a lot in the community. When I met him, he had a joyful heart, and I took students there.
Later, designed and built it. And, it kind of got me into that spectrum with being a business owner and dealing with seniors every day. And then it evolved with my architectural business as well. So it's a big part of my life. And what I've learned as a part of that, you're either really made to understand and to be there for people, or you're not. And this just took me there, and it's a big part of me. So what I've learned, the first question I have is, how do you prepare for changes that affect men? Okay. I've started that. It's been a part of my life. So what I've done is build my village. Okay. And as we get older, okay, and you've got all these healthcare changes, you've got health issues, and I'm not that guy that's going to go run and hide. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. I'm a stroke survivor, and I'm a healthy guy. So all these things came out of nowhere, and through the grace of God and through good medicine, I'm living proof that you can do this and get through it. So what I've tried to do is build a village. Okay. My 86-year-old mother's in a assisted living facility now. Okay. My village helps support her. So as a 64-year-old man, about ready to go on Medicare, okay, but still as a practicing professional in my industry, I don't plan on slowing down. I enjoy what I do, but I've had to build the village. So the family, your faith, and your whole team. And this didn't just happen yesterday. This, like anything that's going on with the family, we rally the troops. And it might not always be blood. So what I've tried to do is build this whole team, and I see it in the community. So you can go to an adult daycare, and you'll have one person taking care of their mom. Okay. They send her to an adult daycare. They can barely afford it, and all this strain. It might be a son, it might be whatever. Now, who's taking care of that person? Generally, that person's in 50s and 60s and maybe even their 70s. Now they're taking care of a senior as well. So I've seen it from a true life standpoint, and now it's a big part of my life. So, I always tell people, don't do it yourself. Get the help, get mental health assistance, get family, rally the troops, and all these things, because it's not getting easier. So now, as I've gotten to my age, all of a sudden, a big regiment is like, oh, I go to the doctor. I'm not afraid to go to the doctor. So, there's these guys that are this shy guy, and I'm not going to do it. No, it's not going to kill me. If I had not gone to the doctor numerous different times, I wouldn't be here today. Quite sure of that. Okay.
Wow.
And so good medicine, good decisions, and not always the first try on any of those things. So you have to, again, I built a team, and when I needed help, when I had my adult daycare, we sold the business a few years ago. I left every day to go to Baptist for cancer treatment every day, 5 days a week for 6 months, and went back to work every afternoon. Just said, I'm doing it. Okay. I mean, I've told these stories, but I don't, it's not like the focus of my, what I like to talk about, but I'm happy to share. So it makes you stronger. So I built this team in my family, and it's not perfect. My family's dysfunctional like the rest of them. It's a hot mess sometimes. So I really try to do that, because we still, as we get older, my parents are still alive. Now, I'm having to look after them now. And I have 4 kids and I have 2 grandchildren. So I'm like right in the mix of it. A lot of people count on me. Okay. So I have this, how can we ensure we remain well, healthy, and sound mind? Okay. I have a fantastic spouse, the best part of my life. Okay. She completes me. I don't want to get all funny, but she does. Dr. Piper knows her really well. She's an amazing woman. So that makes my life easier. Okay. My kids are all in their 20s. Yeah, they stress me out. These kids don't want to go away and grow up. They all want to, and they're all well educated and doing great, but they all want to come back home. So it's like, yeah, you have to really lean on your family and your team to survive this as a as a as a man, and then there's the families that don't, and they have different outcomes. So
Right.
that's kind of my disposition. I'm happy to answer questions later if anyone has anything.
So
So
very
yeah, that's what I wanted to find out exactly, so that this dynamic that you create, did you create it before you had children? Did you create it with family, or you created it with friends? Because some people may want to understand, what is it? How do
Yeah.
you create that? Somebody is listening right now. They want to know, okay, I'm young right now, but how do I create that support system? Because that's what you talk about, Johnson.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could say that I had the foresight to have this all figured out. I did not. Okay. I know for sure that I was very intentional about having a family, very intentional about being a father and being close with my children and close with my parents. All of that was always has been there for a long time. My oldest is 32. Okay. So that was a big part of it. Now, not until really the past 10 years that as I saw my parents aging, and then I ran into health issues in 2017, that all of a sudden I started thinking about it's like, you know what? I got to start leaning on people, and everyone's leaned on me, then it became intentional since 2017.
Okay.
So when not so much when I got sick, but a series of events to say, all right, because and it can be financial too. Everyone's
Right.
demographic is different. Everyone's financial disposition. Me, it's about maintaining my lifestyle and enjoying my life. And my I can have plenty of money or not. I'm not taking it with me. My gold in my heart is my family, and my children, and my life with my spouse. So that's where I've put things, and that's what I've centered everything around.
Okay.
And from a faith standpoint, I'm very, I live in South Florida half the time. I live in Nassau, Bahamas half the time. So that's my home
Oh.
church. And that's really where that's my church family. And it's
Okay.
super strong. Head of a men's group there. And that's just a chapter that happened 5 years ago in my life. So it's evolving. It's not exact, you know. If I got to redo, I could redo a lot of stuff and say, oh, I already planned this out better from 20, 30 years ago, but it's really past 10,
Right.
you
Thank you
know.
so much for answering.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's important. That's very important. Every young man listening right now, you need to create that support system. That's what I get from you, and have faith. Whether you want to surround it around family, but you need to create that support system. And that leads me to Andrew Gold. So, Andrew, we have been talking. We have been friends for so long, and we have been talking about men. And sometimes we make jokes, but sometimes we do talk about how important it is for men to speak, how important, and what's going on with men's health, and how can we recognize when a man is not well? What are the signs, Andrew? So, share with us tonight your perspective as an entrepreneur, as a man, a businessman. You have met a lot of men. You also are a Jew, and you have meet up with Rabbi on Friday nights. So, share with us, what is it that you are doing yourself that sustain you mentally, and what other men can do. You are your mic is off. Your mic.
Can you unmute him, Dr. Greed? I
Let me see.
think you should be able to.
Unmute. Okay. While we are unmuting, okay, there you go. Okay, Andrew.
Mainly when it comes to men's health, given the fact that it's more of a uh, men are more when it comes to men's health, men are more reactionary rather than proactive. So, and women are usually a little bit more proactive. So, what I really wanted to talk about was this the tone that's set between the primary caregiver of a man, usually meaning either a wife or girlfriend, not meaning a child, not meaning a parent. For men that are past 50 years old and have start to experience some mild or severe health issues. So one of the great issues that I see is that men have to have the perception and women have to understand that perception. Are they fulfilling their role in a positive way of being a provider and nurturing their men to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to their health? And that means not nagging them, but so women a lot of times will take on a negative tone, and the tone is almost I know better than you do. So the interrelationships of the men and the women tend to degrade, and nothing gets accomplished, especially when when the men's health is at risk at that point. So I think it's important that men have this, bring up the conversation and say, I know you in general, and I'm talking basically about a long-term relationship, that men have to have a serious conversation on their perception of what their partner is doing in relationship to their health, and make sure that if they're having physical health problems, that the tone is correct so they don't create mental health problems that contribute to the degradation of their health, because a negative psychological situation can degrade a person's physical health. So I think it's very, very important that men, without going into a confrontational way, make sure that their partners understand that there's a way you need to talk to me, and what I say is important, and the way that I perceive how you're talking to me is important, because women, like I said, they tend to take on a tone that they know better, and
Oh boy.
and I think this really, in terms of men's mental health, really degrades their situation and puts up a roadblock for them if they don't like the way the women are talking to them, that they will not follow her advice when it comes to being proactive in terms of their physical health. So I've seen this happen over the past couple of years with friends of mine, and it really it really progresses to a state of confrontation where the men don't get the proper help for their physical health problems, because of that interrelationship.
Right. I'm gonna let you talk, Pastor Patrick, but let me just add a little bit to this one here, because Andrew, we've been talking, even with the domestic violence, we've been talking, and because right now we are dealing with the domestic violence, it's a lot in our community, and we have spoken how important it is with how the women talk, because that can escalate some type of confrontational conversation where the men will become irritated. So can you talk about that too as well, just a little bit, so I can let Pastor Jules speak?
Well, again, like I said, within my community, there's a the Jewish community, both in friends of mine that are religious and friends of mine that are just culturally Jewish. There tends to be, I think, statistically, a lot less domestic violence, and that's a lot of a cultural issue, because I think we've been brought up to not take out physical confrontation with women. It tends to be more of a mental situation, and the divorces, you don't see the domestic situations in a physical sense that you do in the non-Jewish community. That doesn't mean that the tension isn't there. There in many cases, Jewish women and Jewish wives, especially as they get past 50, are perceived as a little more shrewish and a little more difficult to be around. And not to make a generalization, but it can be true, that so the physical side doesn't manifest itself within my community. But like I said, it's the fact that the physical side of a man and a woman's relationship usually gets exasperated by the fact that the man, doesn't feel that his needs mentally, or financially are being met or recognized or appreciated. I mean, there's been several cases in the past few days here in, where the domestic violence, and in each situation, it's been because the women basically ignored the husband's needs. And of course the situations turned deadly. I don't know what I don't know what, I can't read what's being shared right now. But like I said, from a male point of view, hello?
We're here. We're here.
Okay, my screen's been flashing.
Oh, somebody was sharing something. So
Okay. No, like I said, it's just that I think that I think in many situations, not related to being Jewish or not Jewish, but I think, the domestic violence that's really seems to be at the forefront right now, that in many cases, it can be either, as a result of a woman having a higher degree of success and the male not having success. There's a multitude of reasons, outside involvement with other people. I mean, we can go on and on about that, but like I said, the focus tonight is on men's health. So in order, the most successful situations that I've seen where a woman as the caretaker for their husband has been when there's been really a true partnership, and she positively, it finds a way to inform her husband what needs and what, what doctors need to be seen and what kind of things he should be in touch with his body. Women are much more in tune with their, their what happens in their bodies, and whether they're good, they're bad, whether they're feeling good, whether they're sick, than men do. Men tend to ignore situations as either a sore arm or a stomach ache, or a chest pain from indigestion. So women need to understand that they got to be a little more proactive, but the tone of how you inform that husband, will get you success. And I really want to underline the word tone.
Okay. Yeah.
thank you so
That's
much.
great.
We've
Before
go ahead, Dr. Reed.
Dr. Patrick, he's entries.
Yes, I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Andrew was saying, because
Yeah.
as a pastor, I'm always doing premarital counseling couples. That's always something that comes up, where because there was not a proper foundation in the marriage from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to communication. A lot of marriages begin with the sexual and all these other activities, but there was no tone between a husband and wife. How are we supposed to communicate? Andrew said something about, in the Jewish community, how women in their tone. It's the same thing maybe in the Black context, because a lot of times when the man does want to express himself, let's say with their wife in the marriage context, sometimes at that moment that he wants to say something to his wife, that's the time that the wife may be preoccupied, or the time that the wife is working or dealing with the kid. And men can be very sensitive as well, where at the time that the man wants to express himself, he feels like the wife may have shut him down. And I always advise wives and couples to be careful of that, because that time with that man, because men don't like to talk. Men are very mental. If we're going to pay a bill, we're not going to sit down and tell somebody how we're going to pay XYZ. But women, they want to talk about how we paying XYZ. My wife always, so what bills we got this month? In my head, I'm figuring out how I'm going to pay which bill on the 15th, which bill is on the 30th. But because of my wife, I have to go back on paper and say, okay, babe, this is what we're doing. So when it comes to men, I think the tone is that, as Andrew said with the tone, women have to be mindful of when their mate is trying to express something to them, because that could be the time of vulnerability where he is going through something, whether at work, whether with health, whether with family, or even more important, finances. Because if there's anything that stresses a man out is not being able to pay a bill, and especially when other bills are coming up to it. Kids have bills, the wife is bringing another bill, and sometimes you want to be the one to say, yes, I can do this, I'm the provider. So as Andrew said earlier, it's very important that both the men and women are mindful of how they speak to each other. Because any communication requires respect. So the same way the Bible says that the man is to love the wife and the woman is to respect. And something that was said earlier, and I've seen this in some couples, especially with couples where maybe the wife is older than the man, or in my thing, I am 5 years older than my wife, so I'll probably retire before her. Okay, but there's a reversal where some women are older than the husband, or the husband is like 10, 20 years older than the wife. So another thing that need to be discussed is changes within your age. Andrew said that when you go 15 higher, we need to understand as a husband that your wife goes through menopause. There are certain things that women face, that sometimes men are not aware of it. I've worked with women in the past. One of them was my previous boss. So I've seen the changes and stuff in people, and a man has to be like, okay, my wife is going through this right now. Okay, so because she's going through this, her tone might change a little. She might be a little bit more irritated. So for the man who understands that, he's ready for it. But for a man who's not educated on the change in a woman, it becomes a problem. And the same thing, when some men hit 50, they start questioning, what have I done with my life? So sometimes at 50, you find the man want to get a motorcycle. He wants to do other crazy things because they want to see their self-worth, what they've accomplished over the
Okay.
years. So I think, as Andrew said, the key thing is the tone. How
Yes.
we and the key to set the tone, there needs to be open communication. This is where, when we talk about men being leaders, a lot of marriages are broken because they don't understand that the man can hold the ball one day, another day the woman can hold the ball. I always like to tell my wife, one day when I'm retired, you might have to hold the ball paying the bills. So I'm going to prepare her for that, because I might get to age where I can.
Right.
Some people don't prepare for that.
Right.
I do
Okay.
think communication is really important, because we've asked several men when we were trying to get speakers for the podcast. We asked several men, they're not here tonight, but we asked, what are some things that trigger you in your marriage? And they said communication and the woman shopping. Woman shopping drives them nuts because they have, as Dr. Jules said, bills to pay, but the woman cannot stay out of the store. Yeah. And then
Okay.
another one was you're coming home expecting to have dinner, but your wife is saying, I don't know why I'm so tired, but before you go to bed and you look over, she's on her phone all night. And then she's so tired she couldn't cook. So, I mean, those are some things that men mentioned that triggered them. Can you guys share some things that trigger you about a woman?
Well, Dr. Thompson wanted to speak, so he has the mic.
Go ahead, Dr. Thompson.
Okay. Well, earlier, thank you, everyone. Pastor, you were mentioning a stage in Erickson's stage of psychosocial development called generative stagnation, when men look and say, "What have I done with my life?" But I want to talk about just keeping things very simple, and probably all of us probably have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And for everyone here tonight, it's a very simple thing. It's a triangle. It's evidence based. Basically, do we have food, air, water? Next level is, do we have safety, and then love and belongingness? If we keep things very simple, and ask ourselves, and we're talking about, the female and the male, and seeing, eye to eye. Look at it this way, love and belonging is extremely important. A man needs to feel heard, right? At the same time, a woman needs to be felt heard. So communication is always key. So every relationship is different. I mean, we cannot pinpoint and say that every relationship is exactly the same. But for men, having to be heard, and having that level of love and belongingness leads to that next level of like self-esteem. Is the self-esteem high or is it low? And as you progress through these stages, it's extremely important that these things are put in place, because having like safety, a roof over your head, security, like worrying about paying bills, worrying about paying the mortgage, making sure everyone's okay, those are extremely important. So like, the communication factor is important. And I hear everyone talking today, and I can relate, hearing these stories, it's true, but I think the underlying thing is communication. The
Right.
more we can communicate and talk about what we feel is going to help the other person understand what's going on. But if we cannot make that breakthrough, then we're going to just keep going backwards. So I think tonight, we talk. What we're doing is communicating our perspectives, right? At the same time, the question that we need to ask ourselves, those listening, is: are you communicating to your loved ones of what's going on a daily basis? Because holding things inside is not helpful, right? And our health, men's health, mental health, everything goes hand in hand, and everything affects you. So like, uh, paying attention to yourself and what works and what doesn't work, and understanding yourself and communicating that to those people that are supportive of us, and letting them know this is what works or what doesn't work, and this is the way I feel when you don't listen, you're on the phone, and or you don't understand, I had a rough day at work, or I'm trying to pay bills, or whatever the case is. It's about being heard. And tonight we want to let you know that you're being heard, that we're here to share and give that information.
Okay, Dr. Thompson. Now, let me ask you this, because I know as a psychologist, you have either some event coming up, or a flyer, or a special coming up. So everybody's been talking about, what we can do as men, but what is it you can share with us right now that you are offering? So if somebody right now is going through, a man, not somebody, a man is going through and needs some help, what can they get from you? So everybody can share also the same thing. Okay.
For me, my goal is to provide help to everyone I can, but that, one way of doing that is through technology. One of the things I'm working on is PTSD, and offering therapeutic, you know counseling sessions, but also integrating like, um, mixed martial arts classes, self defense. The dynamic is also to create like a broader uh, base of relating to people. So I'm working towards providing some type of application where people can communicate with each other through
Right.
technology
Right.
to receive that type of therapy, because
Okay.
unfortunately right now it's hard to get mental health, to reach to a provider. There are wait lists. So we're having an ongoing problem. So currently from our organization, Stork Wings, we're working on providing therapy and PTSD trauma courses to individuals that are suffering from trauma and any type of severely mental illnesses.
Right.
So I'm excited about that, and we'll see how that goes in the next coming months.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Um, Pastor Gabriel?
Because I think um, you raise a fundamental question, Dr. Reed, when you ask how we can help men, because it's very crucial problem. Men, we tend at our churches to see things, everything is spiritual. It's like we don't belong to this world. And in terms of creating groups that can help each other, discuss things openly. Sometimes even
Okay.
sex, we see this as taboo. And a lot of divorce because of men unable, because of health problems, men cannot even satisfy the woman. That's created a huge problem, and I know a lot of divorces for that. And
Wow.
churches tend to be silent on that. I think it's time now to open up
Yes.
at church instead of when we read 3 John's chapter first verse 2 talks about not only spiritual but the whole human being, the whole body, mind, body, and spirit. We need to have group inside the churches where we can discuss what we confront, what we live inside the house, what's going on in terms of husband and wife communication, children, parents communication, because now we have a bunch of our young women and young men don't communicate with their parents. You see that that's created a huge problem. Fathers, mothers suffer, especially young men. They're in gang, they listen to people outside the house. The church can handle that. You see
Right.
them turn when they turn 18 and so don't go to church.
Right.
But we forgot that these problems, and that put us in a very dear situation where today you see that we wonder where society is going, and we
Okay.
have some weak men, and that's get over spiritualization things and in terms of serious mental health struggles. I
Right.
think it's time now to advise at church. People need to see the doctors. We need to invite
Oh,
professionals to come to the church to share. Not only tell people Jesus will return soon. Jesus will return. I know that. I believe in it. Not only I believe in prayer, but it's time now to touch upon the problem the way it is.
Mm, thank you so
thank you
very
so
much.
much. Yes. Scott wanted to speak.
Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott, yes.
Hi there. I don't know what happened in my video feed, but I can see
Okay.
everyone else. I can hear everyone else, and hopefully you can hear me. So I apologize for that. So we have the pastors in the group. We have a mental health counselor, and so I don't come in that realm. What I can help with folks is real life experience. Um, I've done some other events related to recent health scare I had. I shared that with the world. I've done broadcasts related to my stage 3
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
prostate cancer
Mm-hmm.
journey. And so from a standpoint of being the patient, from standpoint of being just a real person, being a grandfather, being a father, being a husband, uh, and being a businessman. All these things, I can, you can put it out there. I'm putting it out there. I can help people. I'm happy to give advice of mine from a non-professional standpoint, just my journey. And, from the beginning of where it changed for me, like I talked about 10 years ago, up until today, kind of where I'm at. So happy to help, and
Right.
my information's out there.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Everyone, you've been such a great treasure to have on with us tonight. And we've learned so much. We've shared so much with our community. I sincerely thank you. We all thank you. Your discussions invaluable. I think that this is a group that has poured out their hearts into tonight's podcast. And there is someone out there that you have spoken to, you have touched tonight. And, we will continue to discuss, we can continue to take questions. But the one thing I want to make sure that you guys are leaving with is God was here with us tonight because we had our pastors, we had the hearts of people that really care about men's health, and they really wanted to share their journeys with everyone. And to be vulnerable and share what causes man to experience mental changes, physical changes. These
Right.
are things that we want to embrace because we want to give men a voice. That's why we created the Men Breathe Again. It's such a a very important and vital place to be,
Right.
leaders in communities that come together to share real experiences, share real stories, share real advice,
Yes.
and I wanted to
Mhm.
say thank you so much to everyone.
Right. Right. Dr. Piper, let me tell you what I really appreciate about you as the chairwoman of this organization. It's that we have sat together and we have created not only one program, but ourselves we have elevated. I just wanted to let the world know tonight that you also have gotten yourself involved in how we care now for people, not from a standpoint of IT that you used to do, but you have furthered your knowledge also to provide some help. And I would appreciate if you can share, very quick, what is it that you now can provide and what we are doing together.
So I became an herbalist earlier on in the year. And so now I can contribute to teas for mental health, for wellness, for just giving the opportunities that women can sit down at a fireside and relax and learn to breathe in their situation, find comfort in knowing that they are taking care of their health. And it's through teas, natural herbs, and creating the herbs and the teas from scratch. And that is something that I wanted to do. I went to Dr. Jules's church um, last year, and I saw how the women embraced learning
Yes, we
about
did that.
herbal baths,
We
herbal
did that.
teas, herbal products, and it was like this is where I really want to help. Right?
That's
I'm
right.
an
And you
educator.
became certified.
I've been an educator for years. This would be my 34th year, and I love that. That is a passion. You can't take it out of me, right? But
Yes,
now
yes,
I've gone further and I've done the herbalist certification, and then I actually went in and did the woman breathe, the health and breath work. And so my next step is grief counseling. I cannot stop learning. Dr. Jules knows
that's
me,
it.
Dr. Thompson knows me, Dr. Reed knows me, Scott knows me. I'm
Right.
constantly doing something, and
Yes,
there's no moment that I don't put the community. I'm a community builder, and I've always been that way.
yeah,
And so this is an opportunity for me to always find something to give back because I think that my life is full. I have a beautiful family. I have wonderful friends. I have great students. And I rely on you guys to tell
yes,
me, to show me the real you and show me who is in my network. Mr. Scott, very important topic you brought about finding that network and reaching out to people when something is right and when something is wrong. You
right.
know, just being true to who you are. And
Yes.
so I wanted to say thank you too.
All right. We have been friends for a very, very, very long time. Dr. Piper was actually my professor. So
At
this is
Brown
very
Mackie
good.
College.
Yes, yes, that was amazing. So I just wanted to let everyone know tonight that we appreciate your presence here with us. We wanted men to speak. So we just asked questions, but we wanted men to talk to you. So based on the information that we have received outside of this podcast, we realize that we are going to have to put on a second podcast because other men want to talk, other men want to share, and what best place to share but here. So the Woman Breathe Again Holistic Center have opened another branch, and that other branch is Men Breathe Again. So Men Breathe Again is created so men can talk about their issues. Right now they are listening, they want to talk. We want them to talk about what's upsetting them, how their life financially, what we can do to to help or mentor younger men to grow, to become very successful in our community, to be successful men in their marriage. So we want to talk about those things. But for the Woman Breathe Again, you already know that I am myself certified in many, many, many modalities. And one of them is trauma healing. and breath work, holistic healing. With that, I accompanied all of those with products. And that's how Dr. Piper come and help with that. I create the products for men. They are all organic. Some of them are grown at home with my garden, within my garden. Okay. And so therefore we are happy to let you know that we have products for men. I have products for men. And these products ranges from libido. We have for men and their shoes. So we know men wear shoes more than women. Women, we wear flip flop, we wear sandals. But we also know that men tend to have fungus. So we have products for that. We have products for high blood pressure for men. We have products for to help men detox, because men don't talk about those things, but your men need to be detoxed. Okay, so women know that this is what I have. I have the website. So now Women Breathe Again is .com and .org. .org is where we are taking care of women and their families from trauma to triumphant living. So this is what we are talking about. So tonight, we appreciate you for joining us. It's not about promoting products and stuff like that, but I have to tell you that those are what I create to grow, to help. Not only we are talking about the mental health issues that's going on in our families, in our communities, the domestic violence, and how we help with trauma, but we want to make sure that the men in our lives also are well. So we thank you, and we cannot wait for us to be with you here again next time. I will post it on all social media. Follow our pages, our Facebook page. We are on YouTube. We are also on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are everywhere. The Women Breathe Again Holistic Center is here to help women, empower them to rise above trauma. But this time it's men's health. And we thank you for watching with us. So now we just have the speakers saying their last words so we can take off. Thank you.
Mhm.
Last words, Pastor Jules. Come on.
I want to say thank you for having me this evening. It was a pleasure to hear from psychologists and ministers and other people about men's health and women's health. And I will continue to pray for each and every person here. And may we continue to partner to help our communities, because
Yeah.
without us, our communities can become extinct. They can die. And
Mm,
it's through information and communication that we can save a soul, we can save a life. As Pastor Gabriel said earlier, church is not just about telling people about going to heaven, but the gospel is the whole gospel. And every
mm,
area, from your physical, your emotional, your financial, all that is part of the gospel. If one is missing, it affects the other part. And I
Yes.
think that's what the Bible teaches us every day to follow. So let's just keep doing what we're doing to share and help each other grow.
Thank you.
thank you.
Where can they find you, Pastor? Where is your church?
It's at my church is at Bethel Evangelical Baptist Church in Fort Lauderdale, 1121 Northwest 8th Avenue. If you head east on Sunrise Boulevard and then make a left on Power Line, okay, and then you make a right on 11th Street, it's the church right next to Restoring Grace.
Mm,
Amen to that. Yes, Pastor Gabriel, go ahead and share your last words.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of such an impressive and a group of professionals that come together to bring awareness in terms of men's mental health. We need that. And actually, I'm not pastor in a church, but I'm the president of Reconciliation Pastor Association. This week, we're going to have a whole week-long revival, except Saturday. We invite you. That's going to be at Homestead Meadow Auditorium. And I think if you can join us, we'll be so appreciative of that. And thank you, Dr. Will, for what you have been doing for a long time in the community. I think I know you for more than 20-something years. That's
mm,
That's a long
a
time.
long, long time. And
Long time.
thank you too. And I really appreciate, for some reason, Dr. Uh, uh, Piper, Piper,
Hyper. Mm-hmm.
yes, for your work in the community, and each professional, Pastor Jules and Dr. Scott, and every one of you. I think you're helping the community by sharing your knowledge, your thought with them. Thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you. Thank you. Scott?
I guess I got video back. So here we go. Thank you, Dr. Reed, Dr. Piper. I've known Dr. Piper for nearly 10 years. And when she reached out to me to be involved in this, I always try to say yes, for especially for certain folks, because I met her niece way back in the day. She's probably a grown woman now and everything. She was a kid.
Yes.
And I just know how Dr. Piper is. So for me, anyone can email me at scott@nucleusdesigngroup.com, scott@nucleusdesigngroup.com. Very easy to find me. You can find my website and reach out to me like that. I'm very much involved on a day-to-day basis in the senior community.
Where is it?
Well, I just finished designing a 80-bed assisted living facility in Sarasota. Okay. It's the plans are under construction. Okay. I finished a project north of Tampa last year. Okay. And, so those projects take about 2 years to design and build. One of the big things that I'm very involved in, I have a new project in one in Hollywood and one in Boynton that are conversions of homes to assisted living. So one of the problems that is out there is how do we take care of our seniors? Okay. In the Caribbean community, they stayed at home. They took care of them. Now, the reality is not everyone has that ability. Staying home, what does that strain do? So I help because I'm an assisted living facility administrator, as well as being a previous adult daycare owner and being a architect and engineer who designs these facilities. I have a lot of knowledge. So when I'm helping people just day to day with my business, I have that knowledge. So I feel really good about helping people kind of get their dream about doing these things. So certainly reach out. Thanks again, doctors, for having me. Thank you, team, for being here. Thank you.
Of course. Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Piper and Dr. Reed. It was a pleasure being on this podcast. Exciting, to meet such inspirational people tonight and to affect the community. I'm just excited to see more of these podcasts. It's new to me. I've known Dr. Piper for some time as well. And I'm just thankful to have this forum. But the organization I represent is called Stork Wings. You can go to storkwings.com, e-commerce. So, one of the things we're working on is something called Empower and Defend. And, one of the things that we really focus on is human trafficking. And that's a big focus for us. Obviously, as a psychologist, providing therapy and resilience training is something that we're working on. So you can reach me at storkwings2020@gmail.com. I have a couple of things that I'm working on in the next 5 or 6 weeks having a launch that I'd love to share with everyone. Right now, I just keep it kind of low until it comes out. But thank you tonight to everyone on this podcast. You guys were wonderful.
Awesome. Andrew, last words?
Last word. Thank you all for letting me be part of this podcast. My business is garment decoration. We do both printing and embroidery. We work with a lot of nonprofits and small businesses and restaurants and schools. So if anybody has any of those kinds of needs, we've been doing it for 40 years. Everything is done in-house. I have strong feelings on the issues of men's health and the interactions between men and women right now. I'm confounded by what I see going on in society, and it bothers me that I'm essentially powerless to stop a lot of these tragic situations. So I think if all of us here and the fact that we took the time out tonight to try to express whatever talents we have to bring, if we can make a difference in one person's life through this podcast and the continuation of podcasts like this, I consider it a success. So every day we need to
in small ways, help our fellow man, because no matter who you confront, either friend or foe or coworker or associate or relative, everybody everybody's going through some type of trauma, from very mild to extreme. And sometimes just little things that you do during the day can make a big difference in that person's life and how he moves forward and solves those problems. So just for everybody to sort of keep in mind that you can make a difference. Little things do make a difference in other people's lives.
I just also wanted to let people know that Andrew and myself have been friends for a very, very long time. And every shirt, every t shirt that you have seen us do at the breast cancer, at the domestic violence walk, at any of our event, Andrew Gold has been the one behind those. So if you have any need, just let us know. So we will help you that way. But we also want to say, happy birthday to Andrew. He has a birthday coming up. I really, really appreciate Andrew for everything he has done, from being a former director to now a co-chair of fundraising and sponsorship. So I thank you so much. I appreciate you. Let me tell you guys, who's watching, please send us your questions. Tell us exactly what you'd like to see. Tell us the topic that you'd like us to talk about, and let us share, what we can do to bring our community to a higher level of understanding and relationship, and what's plaguing our community, so we can help our fellow men and women, of course. So I just want to thank you guys. I appreciate you so much. You guys did a wonderful, wonderful job. Dr. Piper, you have the last word, okay?
I just want us to remember the people in need of prayer and healing,
Yeah.
and especially Parkland and the Broward County located in Miami. So many um traumatized events. It brings tears to my eyes when I think about the things that is happening. Husbands, wives, kids. It's really something that I think everybody who can do something need to get down on their knees and say some prayers, or get out into the communities and do some more of these podcasts, so that they know that they're not alone. There is help somewhere. That the communities are bleeding, guys, and we need to be doing something about it. It's no longer acceptable for us to say that's not my business. I don't even know them, because it is coming home. It is coming home to us. And if we say we're in church all the time, or even, you don't even have to be in church. You say that I am close to God, I am a child of God, I am one of his angels, I'm one of his soldiers, I'm one of the shepherds. We need to do something, and I think through prayer we can do it, but I also think through doing something we can do it too. We need to get out and do something. It is
Yes.
not okay. It is not okay.
It is not. So, what we are planning to do is to have those conversations. In the past, here in this warehouse, we used to have live podcasts, but hopefully, we can do that again. We can have live podcasts where we can bring guests to our center here, and so we appreciate that. We hoping to bring more help to our supports, resources to our community. I want to let you know that on the website we have resources. If you need help, do not hesitate, because we are right here. We speak multiple languages. I myself speaks 4 languages. So we are here to help. Whatever language you speak, just let us know. If we cannot speak the language, we will find somebody that speaks it. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate every speaker here tonight. You have a wonderful night, and you watching. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Good night.